there's no question about that. And I think you look at the circumstances, the fact that the Giants were able to avoid playing at the Metrodome. We don't know what kind of crowd we have here yet, but I would think Tom Coughlin is pretty pleased about that.
Lorenzo from inside the 10 has some blocking in front of him and a good return out to the 30. And so Tavares Jackson will come onto the field and make this start. He is making his 20th NFL start, his first since 2008. And there are his numbers last week, taking over for Brett Favre, who was driven to the turf, sprained his throwing shoulder on a hit by Arthur Moats, and so the streak is over at 297. Starting at the 30, starting with a throw, and the pass is complete. That's Bernard Berrien, good for 8. Now we look at this group as a whole. You look at the Vikings, who check into this game 18th overall in the NFL, averaging 337 yards per game. They're the backs and receivers, and the offensive line, Troy, will be tested by that good Giants pass rush.
Well, they will be, and yet they have run the ball very well. This is a big, physical, powerful offensive line that Adrian Peterson will be running behind.
And movement as Visanchenko went too soon. So Jeff Triplett's microphone isn't working, but a false start. Now we look at this defense for the Giants, and here is the group up front. This is a Giants defense that is tied for 3rd in the NFL with 35 sacks.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing that they have done very well. Obviously getting pressure on the quarterback here in recent weeks. The other thing they've done very well is creating takeaways.
On 2nd down, another completion, a little bobble at the end, but Sidney Rice has enough for a 1st down, was down before the ball popped out. Terrell Thomas on the stop for the Giants. 1st down, Minnesota.
And we talked about Tavares and the amount of work that he has had all season long because of the various injuries. Brett Favre has been limited in his practice time. I know these coaches are looking forward to watching him and seeing what he can do as the starter. Last week overall, pretty good, but a few passes got away from him, and that's the area that he has got to improve, is with his accuracy.
Here is the first carry by Peterson. Jonathan Goff, the middle linebacker, is the man there to make the stop, and a loss of 1. And a good play by the guy who's taken over that middle linebacker spot in the heart of this Giants defense.
In fact, Jonathan Goff is surprisingly only 9th on the team defensively in total tackles, but yet he's 2nd on the team to Justin Tuck in tackles for losses. And so he's not involved in all that many tackles, but when he is, they're typically pretty good plays behind the line of scrimmage.
2nd down and 11. Peterson gets it, tries the left side, tries to get to the edge, and not much. Thomas there to knock him out of bounds after a gain of just 1. That'll bring up 3rd down and long for the Vikings. And there is Leslie Frazier, who has given this team a little spark. A team that lost 7 of the first 10 under Brad Childress. He was fired on the 22nd of November after a home loss, a lopsided loss to the Green Bay Packers. Third down and 10. From the shotgun, Jackson runs out of time, trying to buy a little more, and will just flip it out of bounds. And it's time for a punt from Minnesota. So a hold there by the Giants defensively after giving up that 1 first down.
And overall, that was good protection up front by Minnesota against a red-hot defensive front. When you think about that group that they have, there's pass rushers really at every position across the board, and Minnesota does a good job. But on the back end, and I think that's the area, particularly at corner, where they have really improved as the season has progressed.
Will Blackman's been inactive for the last couple of games after a big hit during the game against the Eagles. He is back, calls for a fair catch, and hauls it in around the 15. Take a break, come back. Giants will have it on offense for the first time. No score early. Well, now the Giants have it. Head coach Tom Coughlin is real interested to see how his group comes out of the gate here after this odyssey of a weekend. Haven't had any real physical activity since the team left. Ended up diverted to Kansas City on Saturday, and here they are playing in a big game. Play action from Manning, who rolls to his right, finds Kevin Boss. Gets a big hit, and Boss is out just shy of the 20, a gain of 6. E.J. Henderson, the middle linebacker, there to make the stop. And for Eli Manning, he has 2 of his big targets back. Steve Smith and Hakeem Nicks. And here's the offensive line, Troy, which has been juggled really all year, but they haven't allowed a sack in 5 straight games.
No, they've done a nice job during the last 5 weeks protecting Eli Manning. They've also done a good job running the football without the guys that they've had. Dave Veal returning at left tackle, but that offensive line has been shuffling throughout the season. They've done a great job of overcoming it.
Penalty flag flies as Brandon Jacobs carries it across the 35. Knocked down at the 37, but a flag was thrown back near the line of scrimmage. Brandon Jacobs with a big day last week at home against the Washington Redskins, and this one's coming back.
Illegal formation offense. The wide receiver moved onto the line, covering the tight end who did not move back. 5-yard penalty, still second down.
So an illegal formation wipes that big run off the board, 17 yards by Brandon Jacobs, who last week had 8 carries for over 100 yards against the Redskins.
Yeah, how about that? That'll help your yard per carry average. And then you've got Ahmad Bradshaw, who has not been the starter the last 2 weeks. He had a season high 25 carries last week against Washington.
And so now on second down, it's Brandon Jacobs again. And instead of having a 1st and 10 at the 37, thanks to that illegal formation penalty, it was 2nd and 9 at the 15. A gain of 4, so 3rd and 5 coming up. And here's the defense for the Vikings, the defensive line, which Troy's really picked it up, in particular Jared Allen over the last 5 games.
Jared Allen has been on fire here in recent weeks, and I thought last week in that win over Buffalo, that defensive front, along with Jared Allen, Kevin Williams, and then Brian Robinson, who got the start for Ray Edwards, I thought they were as good as I'd seen from them all year long.
Steve Smith is in the slot, second from the bottom of your screen on 3rd and 5. Manning throws and picked off. Intercepted and back the other way, Frank Walker. An extra defensive back, and Eli Manning throws an interception, trying to get it to Hakeem Nicks. 18th interception of the season for Eli Manning.
Well, Hakeem Nicks is going to run the skinny post, and the ball's just not thrown up the seam. If the ball's thrown up the seam, Hakeem Nicks has great positioning there on Frank Walker. But you see, because it was a little underthrown, Walker, more in a trail position from the outside, was able to undercut that throw and then make the interception.
First of the year for Frank Walker, and for Eli Manning, he's now given the ball away 23 times, and the Giants have given the ball away more than any offense in the NFL. 32 times now. Jackson fires a completion to Sidney Rice. And Sidney Rice is wrapped up by Corey Webster after a gain of 9.
You know, you look at Eli's year, and he's overcome a lot. When you talk about the offensive line changes, the guys he's missed at the skill position, that's hard on any quarterback. The thing that has hurt him has obviously been the interceptions. In the 2 losses against Dallas, Philadelphia, 5 interceptions. The last 2 weeks when they've won, only 1 interception. A bad decision last week. This was just a poor throw.
Candy can't bring down Adrian Peterson, but he is tackled by Terrell Thomas and Osi Umenyiora at the line of scrimmage. So 3rd down and 1 coming up for the Vikings.
You know, the Giants defensively, they came out of the gates this year playing outstanding football, giving up about 250 yards a game through the first 8 weeks. The last 2 weeks, people have moved the ball against them. In fact, over the last 4 weeks, they've been near the bottom of the league in terms of yardage given up. But as we said, get after the quarterback, create takeaways.
On 3rd down and 1, Peterson lowers his head. It depends on the spot. Looked like he came up short, and he did.
Well, I've got to believe Leslie Frazier he'll get a measurement here to give himself some time to decide what he wants to do, but I'd be surprised if he doesn't go for it here on 4th and inches.
The official on the near side gave a little more with regard to forward progress than the official on the far side. By our line, which is unofficial, he still looked short. And by inches, it's 4th down. And if you're Leslie Frazier and you have Adrian Peterson and you're 5 and 7 overall as a team, plow ahead. Tavares Jackson is a big body quarterback, 6'2", 225. This is a Minnesota team 5 of 13 on 4th down this season. And it's Tavares Jackson getting the first down for the Vikings. On second effort, he converts on 4th and inches.
See, you run that quarterback sneak down there, and a lot of things go on. You saw Tavares Jackson come up, and his headgear is a little out of kilter, and chin strap,
but he got the job done. So first down, and here's Adrian Peterson, runs into a ball, bounces off. Grant can't bring him down from behind, and by the time the run's over, it's a 7-yard gain. And Terrell Thomas is there to make the stop, but Peterson had nothing and turned it into 7 yards.
Yeah, I mean, he had nothing. They had him bottled up, and the Giants do a great job of not giving Adrian Peterson the cutback lane, but you know, he didn't have it, and then he's able to bounce it back out the other side. Terrell Thomas, I think, has really come on here in recent weeks. One in pass coverage, but you know, both he and Corey Webster, I've been impressed watching them do what Terrell Thomas just did, and that is make tackles in the run defense as well.
Second down and 3, quick throw, and the pass complete to Booker, who joined this team from the UFL. Gained 6 and a first down. Lorenzo Booker, who is more of a 3rd down back type. Originally a 3rd-round pick of the Dolphins in 07. Was traded to Philadelphia in 08. Played collegiately at Florida State, and he should add something. Had a good year in the United Football League.
Yeah, I think he adds a little bit what they're missing with Chester Taylor no longer here this year. And you know, Lorenzo Booker was expected to do a lot of things in tandem with Brian Westbrook there in Philadelphia at one time.
Adrian Peterson gets it on a toss, cuts back. Antrell Roll was in there to make the stop. He wasn't alone, a gain of 2. And I got to tell you, this has got an odd feel to it here in Detroit. You saw Jared Allen when the Vikings were on defense calling for the crowd to make noise. These are mainly citizens of this city, and they were handed tickets. The center sections were left for people who had tickets to the game in Minneapolis, but predominantly this crowd are just filled with people that are getting a chance to see an NFL game.
They didn't look like a crowd that was going to be sitting on their hands tonight, that's for sure.
It's second down and goal. Jackson throws, completes Rice. A gain of 5. 3rd goal coming up. Deion Grant there for the Giants.
You know, how about Sidney Rice? I mean, I don't know how different this Viking season would have been had he not have had the hip injury, but I've got to believe it would have been different. And last week, for anybody that was concerned about whether or not that hip was healed, I think that was eliminated on that performance. He made catches in that game, much like he did last year, that wide receivers just are not expected to make. And he looked a lot like Larry Fitzgerald looked, you know, during their Super Bowl run a few years ago.
Here is Rice. He makes an adjustment. The pass incomplete. It hit the ground as he came back to try and make the grab. Last week he called for a replay. He was awarded a touchdown. Let's take another look. The original call is that it was incomplete.
Boy, it sure looked like he got his wrist and forearm under that. You know, I mean, I don't know if that's going to constitute possession, but that might have been the easiest catch that he was asked to make. He'll come back to the ball. It hits the ground there.
I think you can make a strong case that ball was trapped against the ground, and so now a 21-yard drive by Longwell for the first points of the night. Take a break. Vikings turn the Eli Manning interception into 3 and lead the Giants 3-zip in the first. Well, the Eli Manning interception turns into points, so 3 points off the turnover. 21-yarder from Ryan Longwell. It came after the Frank Walker interception, a 10-play drive. And now DJ Ware waits for the kick from Longwell. Has to run a long way to get it. This ball's going to end up in the end zone for a touchback. Eric Bieniemy was described to us by Adrian Peterson as a Sour Patch Kid. He's got a lot of sour. Every once in a while can be sweet. That was sour. He's hot. 3-0 Vikes. Welcome back. 3-0 Vikings in the odd sight of Brett Favre in a regular season game, not dressed out, not making the start here tonight. Tavares Jackson's been able to move the team.
You know, I was watching Favre on the field in pregame when he was wearing that same outfit. He just looks lost. I mean, he never has. He's never not been suited up or playing. You know, I mean, you can imagine. 20 years. He's like, what am I supposed to do with myself?
Quick setup and throw, and this one's batted back into the face of Eli Manning. Kevin Williams got his hands up. 6'5", 311, and knocked it down. 2nd and 10.
You know, we had that shot of running back coach Eric Bieniemy going to break there, and he just got named the University of Colorado offensive coordinator. He's going to finish out the season here with the Minnesota Vikings, but I hope no potential recruits were watching that. I don't know that they're going to be real excited about getting an earful each and every time they come off the field, and that's what Adrian Peterson says he gets from Eric Bieniemy. He does a great job. He really has in coaching Adrian Peterson.
2nd down and 10. Delayed handoff, no play action from Eli Manning all day, and slings a fastball strike to Akeem Nicks. 15 yards and a 1st down, and a good sharp throw from Eli Manning.
Well, this is perfect. Number one, you get great protection in the pocket. You're not going to see anybody within 4 or 5 yards of Eli Manning, and then Akeem Nicks, a big body right in front of you. So, I mean, that's what you're seeing right there if you're Eli Manning, and that's just a nice clean lane for him to deliver the football. This offensive line, we talked about the job that they have done. I'm so impressed watching them, the way that they work in tandem, and that's what all great offensive lines do.
A delayed handoff to Brandon Jacobs, who comes through that pile and picks up 3. I think it shows a couple of things, Troy, with that offensive line. I know you're impressed by the coaching of Pat Flaherty, but there is a depth of coaching for guys, and the way they've had to mix guys around. And the minute one guy goes down, somebody else is ready to step in.
Well, Jerry Reese, number one, the general manager, has provided this staff some at least quality backups to step in, which has been great. And Jerry Reese, if he wasn't already, he became a local celebrity there in New York. I mean, he got a lot of ink on the job that he has done, and rightfully so. But you're right, Pat Flaherty, the offensive line coach, he's been doing it awfully well for a long time. 2nd down and 7, and this one's dropped by Boss.
And then Boss gets a little hit from Mediu Williams at the end of it. 3rd and 7 coming up for the Giants. I alluded to it earlier. The Eagles winning last night, that puts Philly at 9-4. The Giants are at 8-4, so a win here tonight if they can get it. They'll have the same record with Philadelphia, and then a short week to prepare for Sunday's game at home against the Eagles.
That's going to be a heck of a matchup.
We'll be there. 3rd and 7. Manning with protection, pass incomplete. Had a man, Kevin Boss, off his hands, and it's 4th down.
Well, we talked about it. David Deal coming back after missing the last 4 games, and he doesn't get any help with Jared Allen. And, you know, as I said, Jared Allen right now, he's like that batter in baseball. He's just seeing the ball, and he's playing well, and he's awfully confident right now in his ability to get pressure on the quarterback. Does a good job there on Deal.
So Matt Dodge will punt it. Greg Camarillo waits for the Vikings. Line drive punt. Chance for a little return from Camarillo. And up the sideline. Good field position for the Vikings. No flag thrown on the sideline. We'll take a break. 14-yard return. Vikings have the football as they lead the Giants by 3. There are the stats. Here we are on a Monday night. You always wanted to do Monday Night Football, Aikman, and here's your big shot. We're only on in.
I just like to know when I'm going to do Monday Night Football. You know, it would help me prepare a little bit better. Help me pace myself, I guess.
Yeah. We thought we were going to be in Minneapolis on Sunday. We're in Detroit on Monday night. Blitz coming from the Giants. Now they back out. Tavares Jackson completes to Rice. He's been busy. Catch number 4 for Sidney, who had 105 yards and 2 touchdowns against the Bills last week.
Well, Tavares Jackson throwing with great confidence there, and I think that's when he is really good, as most quarterbacks in this league are. When you've got good protection and then your first guy's open, he continuously throws the ball very well in those situations. It's some of the other things that I think the coaches are really evaluating here during this period, and quite frankly, it looks like he'll be the starter the rest of the season.
Handoff is to Peterson, and Adrian pushes the pile forward for 3. What a strange weekend for the Giants and Tom Coughlin, who is very regimented with his schedule. 17 inches of snow in Minneapolis on Saturday. The Giants plane was diverted to Kansas City. Then on Sunday morning at roughly 5 a.m. the Metrodome roof collapses. That's what it looks like from outside. Then Detroit gets ready. The fans have been great. Tickets went 90 minutes. Paint the Vikings logo at the 50. The end zone with the word Vikings. Minnesota leads 3-0. And Tavares Jackson goes down in a heap. He and Adrian Peterson collided, and Jackson limps.
Yeah, that's sometimes a dangerous situation, Joe. They collided in each other. The timing was just off, and you know, a lot of times then you're banging knees, and that appears to be what happened on that exchange.
Yep. Right knee into right knee. Both players getting looked at. We'll take a break and come back after this. So Tavares Jackson has to come out for at least one play. He's standing. Looks like he may come back in. Peterson went to the bench. Now he's up trying to get his leg loose. And here is Joe Webb. Webb is a rookie, slings it down the sideline, and the pass is dropped, nearly brought home by Sidney Rice. And so now it's 4th down, and this was close as Rice fought Terrell Thomas and almost took it away from him.
Well, Joe Webb's a quick study. You know, just throw it up and give Sidney Rice a chance to make a play, and that's what he did. I can't imagine he was going to go anywhere else with the football. And how about the irony of Brett Favre's streak breaking at 297 consecutive games? Tavares Jackson comes out because he ran into a teammate in the backfield.
Here's a punt by Kluwe into the end zone. So here is Tavares Jackson, Adrian Peterson banging knees, and the reaction from Brett Favre on the sideline. Giants will have it at their 20, down by 3. We look ahead to next week, and it should be a good one in the Meadowlands for the Eagles at the Giants. Kickoff at 1 Eastern. The day starts at 12 Eastern with Fox NFL Sunday. We look at the remaining schedules for the Giants. They have the Eagles at the Packers, at the Redskins, the Eagles at the Giants, at home against the Vikings, and then at home against Dallas. Here's Ahmad Bradshaw, first carry of the night, shows that speed and then shows his toughness as he lowers his shoulder into Abdullah, a gain of 18 yards.
Well, it's just a nice job of seeing it right there by Ahmad Bradshaw, knowing that it was clogged up on the front side, and that's what you're looking for. You're looking for that backside lane, and you know, this is where the Giants have been really good. This time it's Akeem Nicks, but all of those guys, whether it's Mario Manningham and even last week with Derek Hagan, I thought they just did a nice job on the outside of helping those running backs block in the running game.
Here's a quick throw. Hakeem Nicks, who missed 2 games with a lower leg injury, has got 12 yards and a first down. Asher Allen on the stop. So Nicks is back. He had compartment syndrome in his lower left leg. Surgery on November 22nd, which was the same day Brad Childress was fired by the Vikings. And Steve Smith is back after missing 4 games with a torn pec. So 2 big weapons are back. Smith, a Pro Bowler from a year ago, and Nicks tied for 12th, even missing 2 games in the NFL with his 62 catches coming in. Under 30 seconds to play in this first quarter, and here is one for Nicks. Actually Manningham, and he is wrapped up. Good play by Hussein Abdullah, gain of just 1. Manningham makes the grab, his 44th catch of the season. He's got 5 touchdowns. Nicks in his second year has really stepped forward. He's got 9. That'll do it for the first quarter here in Detroit. 3-0 Minnesota. Back after this from your local Fox station. Giants have lost 4 straight to the Minnesota Vikings. Eli Manning comes in with a career quarterback rating of 47.8. He has thrown a pick that led to the 3 points that are on the scoreboard so far in this one, and he's 4 of 8 for 34 yards. An odd feeling, kind of flat game here at the start. 2nd down and 9 for the Giants at the Minnesota 49. Pressure from the outside, and the pass broken up. Manningham, the intended receiver, and Allen on the coverage. Here are the highlights, so to speak. Not good. The 0-4 record for Eli Manning against Minnesota. 10 interceptions now, with just 2 touchdown passes. 4 of the interceptions returned for touchdowns. And it's now 3rd down and 9 in a game that the Giants can't afford to lose.
He's got to be glad that he doesn't see Darren Sharper along the other side of the ball.
I was thinking the same thing. He's in New Orleans. On 3rd down, Manning throws, and he's picked off again. Intercepted by Asher Allen. Eli Manning tried to force it, and he has thrown 2 interceptions here today.
Well, initially Eli Manning wants to go to his front side, but Hussein Abdullah got under that. He comes to the backside a little bit late. Just a bad decision.
2nd turnover by the Giants. Vikings have it up 3. So another interception from Eli Manning, and now he has turned it over, combined with the 5 fumbles, more than any player in the NFL this season. Tavares Jackson back in the lineup, as is Adrian Peterson, after the 2 banged knees last time the Vikings had it. Here's one down the sideline for Berrien, and he's let out of bounds. We go back to the interception by Eli.
Yeah, you're going to see Hussein Abdullah here. He's going to get underneath the slant, and that's what gets Eli Manning off the front side. He comes to the backside. Asher Allen was just anticipating the slant. He gets inside leverage there on Mario Manningham. Manningham is unable to cross Asher Allen's face, which is what Eli is expecting. But you could tell, based on where Asher Allen was, that he was in a great position then to make that play. Tom Coughlin, you know, each and every week, it's really the turnovers has been whatever demise they've had in any given game.
Here is a pass for Camarillo, and the catch is made on 2nd and 10, a gain of just 3. I mean, this is a very poor start for the Giants coming in here to Detroit against a team that's 2 games under 500. No Favre, Tavares Jackson, you hand them 2 interceptions. And this is a situation in the NFC because of what's going on in the South. A 10-win team may not make the postseason on the NFC side, and so here are the Giants trying to keep pace with the Eagles, and they have their hands full. 3rd down and 7. Blitz coming from the Giants. Jackson gets it away, and the pass caught by Berrien. 1st down Minnesota, a completion of 11 yards.
Well, that was a nice throw there by Tavares Jackson. This isn't an easy throw when you're trying to lay it out there on the sideline. A good route by Bernard Berry, and for a guy who really over the last couple of years has become, you know, somewhat forgotten based on when he first came into the league. This year only averaging 10 yards per catch, which is a career low, and only 2 catches of over 20 yards.
Here's Toby Gerhart, and the rookie out of Stanford, second-round pick, picks up 3.
Which, you know, is really surprising when you're talking about Bernard Berry. I mean, he was brought in to be the deep threat down the field, and that's what he's always been, going back to when he was with Chicago and then when he came in here that first year with Minnesota. But it just really hasn't happened. Last year, just about 11 yards a catch, and that was a career low prior to this year. Just hasn't had as many big plays in recent years.
Only has 21 catches all year, and that's with Sidney Rice being inactive after that hip surgery. Tavares Jackson in trouble, and down he goes. Rocky Bernard made the stop, a loss of 1.
Rocky Bernard right in the middle, and that's the real key against Tavares Jackson. Last week he was able to step up in the pocket and gain extra yards, keep plays extended, and that was a real emphasis. I know in talking with Tom Coughlin, okay, if Brett Favre's not playing, then how does that change what you do schematically? Well, that's part of it. Those interior guys have got to stay home.
First sack of the year for Bernard, 3rd and 8. Jackson steps up in the pocket, now pulls it down. Using his legs, looking for a block, and he's forced out of bounds. Good play by Boley. And a gain of 5 short of a first down is Tavares Jackson.
Well, they've tried getting the ball now the last 2 plays to Sidney Rice, and you know, just good coverage on the back end. Again, Bernard Berry, and he's getting jammed up by Corey Webster on the outside, but just nowhere for Tavares Jackson to go with the football. So far here in this first half, this secondary for the Giants has really done a nice job overall against this receiving core of the Vikings.
So Kluwe will punt it. The interception does not lead directly to points. Blackman is waiting for it. See how good Kluwe is at downing it inside the 20. Blackman at the 12. Been a slow start. Giants trying to figure it out. Down by 3 here in Detroit, playing the Vikings. Giants will start at their own 11, down by 3. Eli Manning has a quarterback rating of 10. 4 for 10, 34 yards, 2 interceptions. There are the possessions, the first 3. And now they start backed up. They go to the run and hand it to Brandon Jacobs, who hangs on to the football. Guyon was the first one there, a gain of 2. Everything, Troy, for this Giants offense is predicated on the run. It comes off the run. And that offensive line is trying to give holes for Brandon Jacobs and Ahmad Bradshaw to find here against the Vikings.
Yeah, I mean, this was going to be a real test. The last couple of weeks in those games against Jacksonville and Washington, I mean, those were nice offensive days running the football, but it's a whole different animal when you're talking about the 4th-ranked defensive front in all of football.
It's 2nd down and 8. Here's Brandon Jacobs to the edge, and there he goes. Brandon Jacobs, there are no flags, and Jacobs still on his feet down inside the 15. He had a couple of breakout runs last week against the Redskins. This one 73 yards.
Now you watch the block down there on the left side, and E.J. Henderson just fails to contain. I mean, there was nobody. You got the left side of David Deal, Kevin Booth. They blocked down, and then somebody has got to scrape, or somebody has got to contain. Maybe that was Jared Allen, and he's trying to get outside. But he definitely gets away with a hold there. Bear Pasco does. But it looked to me more like E.J. Henderson was a guy who should be scraping off the edge. They don't have contain, and then you got the big run.
Here's Ahmad Bradshaw now, a leap, and he's still going. Sets up a 1st and goal inside the 5.
I think that's a great example right there on those 2 runs. One is Brandon Jacobs he's a good outside runner. A lot of times these guys get pigeonholed And then Ahmad Bradshaw, he has more power inside than what most people believe. Not Giant fans, they see this each and every week. But a lot of people around the league, they know what kind of speed and quickness and elusiveness he has. They don't realize he's as tough as what he is between the tackles.
The Vikings have not allowed a rushing touchdown over their last 5 games. Giants stay with it on the ground. It's Bradshaw to the line of scrimmage. That's it. Kevin Williams makes the stop. 2nd and goal.
Yeah, I think Tom Coughlin might have had a little conversation with Kevin Gilbride and said, hey, let's see if we can't get this running game going and allow Eli to settle in a little bit better. And, you know, the 2 nice runs there, Brandon Jacobs, Ahmad Bradshaw, you know, right after we're saying, hey, this is a little more difficult task trying to run the football against the Minnesota Vikings run defense. And they've taken it right down here inside the 5-yard line on 3 running plays.
Giants are already over 100 rushing yards in the game. Second and goal. Here's Bradshaw. No signal, and they're going to mark him down short of the goal line. And it'll be 3rd and goal from inches away.
We watch Chris Snee, 76, and you know he takes Chad Greenway 5 yards deep in the end zone. Unfortunately, Rich Seibert, the center, didn't get as good a block. Kept Bradshaw from getting in the end zone.
Well, I think the way Eli Manning's been throwing it, last week threw an interception in the end zone against the Redskins. It's no surprise to see the Giants trying to pound it in, and now Tom Coughlin's going to challenge that call. The ruling on the field was that when the arm came down of Ahmad Bradshaw, he was shy of breaking the plane of the end zone. His backside goes down, and I would say it was a good spot.
The Giants are challenging the ruling on the field of short of the goal line.
But Tom Coughlin's going to challenge it. It's either a touchdown or 3rd and goal from inches away when we come back. Giants down by 3. We haven't seen anything to think that that call will be overturned. Tom Coughlin 6 of 9 on challenges this year. He is career under 50%. And it looks like the left forearm and the backside of Ahmad Bradshaw is down before he breaks that front edge of the goal line. But we'll get the call from Jeff Triplett. And it appears to us there's not anything there to overturn the call on the field. And it will stay 3rd and goal from inches away.
How about Tom Coughlin and talking with him and some of the guys on the team, and he was pretty calm during that whole process there in Kansas City. Came as a little bit of a surprise to me.
Here comes the call, and we'll talk more about that.
After review, the ruling on the field stands. The Giants are charged their first timeout and their first challenge.
When we talked to Tom Coughlin today, he kept saying, I had to tell myself to calm down. Said I made 5 different itineraries because our plans kept changing. But he eventually turned it into something. They tried to have some fun. They had the rookies sing, which they do during training camp. They were playing cards, and it was an opportunity for the team to get together and hang out as just a bunch of guys.
Well, I saw Carl Banks before the game. He said when they were stuck in the hangar there in Kansas City, he got on the plane after getting off there for a little bit, and he kind of disputed whether or not Tom Coughlin was handling it as well as everyone was reporting.
Giants so far 0 for 3 on 3rd down. It's 3rd and goal. Jacobs, penalty flag as Jacobs walks in, but a flag is thrown. It's a touchdown for Jacobs. We'll get the call. Here it is.
Offside defense. Left side of the line, lining up in the neutral zone. That penalty is declined. Touchdown.
So Brandon Jacobs, who took him down there with that 73-yard run, pounds in his 8th rushing touchdown of the season, and he basically walked in for 6.
Yeah, this was about as easy as it comes right there. He got in there behind Bear Pasco, but basically walked in uncontested.
Vikings had held 4 of their last 5 opponents. Here's a high snap. Good job by Rosenfels on the hold. And Tynes knocks it through. Here's the big run. Over 100 yards rushing on the day already are the Giants, who have their first lead of the night, 7-3 over Minnesota. Eli Manning did not throw a pass on that drive. 6-play drive, 89 yards, and a career-long carry for Brandon Jacobs of 73 yards. Set it up, then Brandon Jacobs pounded it in. 7. And so now the Vikings, who had that 3-0 lead, they now trail 7-3. And we talk more about Tavares Jackson. Golden opportunity, although he's playing this game without Hutchinson and guard in front of him, and Percy Harvin is out with migraines on the outside.
Yeah, I think overall Tavares Jackson has been very efficient. Right now, we knew this coming in, that the key for both of these teams was going to be who can run the football. And you look at Minnesota, Adrian Peterson here on his first 8 carries, just 8 yards. I mean, he's averaging 1 yard per carry. This Giants defense has done a nice job, and that then, as this game goes along, is just going to put more and more pressure on that man right there, Tavares Jackson.
Pass is complete to Berrien. And when we talk about inactives, these are some key names. 19 Pro Bowls combined. Brett Favre has 11 of them. Steve Hutchinson has 7 of them, but Harvin and Ray Edwards on the defensive side is missing his 2nd straight game.
The real concern that I would have would be Percy Harvin. We talked to Leslie Frazier on Friday. He was already ruled out on Friday that he would not be playing.
Here's Peterson, good for 3.
And he missed last week. He didn't practice. He didn't practice this week. He was ruled out. And just the way that Leslie Frazier told us about it, Joe, in fact, I asked him, I said, it just sounds like it's not something you really want to discuss, and he didn't. And so you're talking about such a dynamic player. From one week to the next, you're not certain whether or not he's going to play. That's the least of anybody's worries. They've got to figure out what's causing this for this young man and make his quality of life better.
And movement by the left tackle, McKinney.
False start, number 74 of the offense. 5-yard penalty, 3rd down.
So the Vikings are a 1 for 6 on 3rd downs. Now have 5 yards tacked on. It's 3rd and 7.
You see there, Brian McKinney, their left tackle, 1st-round pick back in '02. And with Hutchinson out of the lineup, they go with rookie Chris DeGear at left guard, and an already big offensive line gets a lot bigger with him at the guard position. He has 20 pounds on Steve Hutchinson when he's in there playing.
It's 3rd down and 7. Jackson, pressure, and brought down Cofield. 2nd sack by that defensive front. And a loss of 10.
Yeah, you're going to see him right here. Just a little, they run somewhat of a twist right there, trying to free up really. Who they're trying to free up is Jason Pierre-Paul, but Cofield was the guy first, and usually he's the guy who ties up the defenders. It frees up the 2nd guy coming back around, but that time Cofield got the free look.
And now a flag and whistles kill the play before it happened. Looked like the Giants came across early.
I had to pause before I said that. I keep forgetting if it was Jason Pierre-Paul or Jason Paul Pierre. I just want to make sure that I got it right.
Zone infraction, 46 of the defense. Correction, 47 on the defense. 5-yard penalty, still 4th down.
That's Travis Beckham. One thing seems to be more and more clear. A guy who came into the league as a project because he had only played 1 real year of collegiate football, 1 year in high school, more of a basketball guy. He's got back-to-back 2-sack games, and he's starting to put his name on that list, Troy, of guys to really rush off the edge.
There's no doubt, and he's earned the right for me to get his name right.
Here's a punt by Kluwe. Blackman is driven back near the 10. Took it at the 11. And good coverage downfield. Kenny Onatolu down there to make the stop. How about if we meet Jason Pierre-Paul? He only played football his senior year of high school in Deerfield Beach, Florida. Lettered 4 years in basketball. Favorite musical artist Drake. Celebrity crush Megan Good from Saw 5. You probably remember that.
Oh,
and he once did 23 consecutive backflips And he's kind of a YouTube sensation when he turned 13 in a row. He was in Toronto at the International Bowl.
You know, it just shows you that if you're big and strong and you're athletic, and when he showed that kind of athleticism, there's a place for you. Teams will take a chance on a guy like that, and the Giants are glad they did.
Here's Bradshaw. A loss of 1. You want backflips? Here you go. He's got a 35-inch reach. He can run. And he can do this. I mean, this is a guy 6'5", 270, 13 straight. And then he went 15th overall in the first round to the Giants out of South Florida.
Yeah, first round pick, and he got tired of Justin Tuck and the rest of that defensive meeting room asking when the Giants were going to get a return on their investment. And well, they're getting a real nice return here in recent games.
Crowd here starts to wave, and a full start against the Giants. Here's the call from Jeff Triplett.
False start. Defense, number 76. 5-yard penalty, second down.
So those who got the seats, free or otherwise, are here having fun in Detroit.
Everybody's cringing at home thinking, I thought that the wave had finally gone away. It's back.
It's back. It's in Detroit.
Because of the free tickets they gave out in Detroit.
Why not? They're entertaining themselves. 2nd and 16. 5 to go in the first half. Setting up a screen for Bradshaw. Seibert's out in front of him. Bradshaw gets to the 15. That's it. One last note about Jason Pierre-Paul. When the Giants won it all in 2007, they had 4 guys that could rush, with Umenyiora, Michael Strahan, who's now with us, Matthias Kiwanuka, and Justin Tuck. And now they've had Tuck and Umenyiora, and you can add number 90 to the mix with 4 sacks over the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, and you know, he's getting his chance because of Kiwanuka going down. And think back to that year in 07. You know, Justin Tuck, that was really kind of his coming out party, was during that stretch, and the things that he was able to do. This is a great addition to that front.
3rd and 13, and another short pass. This one to Bradshaw, who is dragged down to the ground. Asher Allen made the stop, a gain of 3, and it's 4th down for New York.
That was a good stop there by Minnesota. I mean, giving up the touchdown on the previous possession on the running game, and then to come back and stop the Giants, and they should give the ball back to their offense with good field position.
Second punt for Matt Dodge, who hits a wobbler, more on a line drive, and again a chance for a little bit of a return. Camarillo. The Vikings down by 4 will start at their own 45. Next Monday, there's a penalty flag down on that punt. December 20th, Fox presents the only game show where you start with $1 million. The hard part is keeping it. 7 questions, $1 million. Will they win it all or watch it fall? The $1 million money drop.
For an ineligible downfield on the kick.
Will they get an ineligible player downfield? Sintum is down on his back and getting looked at. That week-long event begins on Fox next Monday, December 20th on Fox. We only caught the end of the report, the announcement by Triplett. He was saying there was no foul for an eligible man downfield, and there's Sintum. He got a chance to play last year on a defense that really just fell apart at the end of the season, including a 44-7 loss to the Vikings in Minneapolis. And a season that started last year for Tom Coughlin at 5-0 ended 8-8. And on the left side of your screen, you'll see Sintum right there. Knocked to the ground and then grabbed his right leg immediately.
You know, you talk about the start last year, 5-0, and then finishing 8-8, and you know, they got off to a great start, you know, here this year as well at 6-2, and then they lose 2 in a row, and it kind of had the look anyway of what took place last year, but they were able to regroup and put together a couple of wins. and get this thing back on track.
On first down, Peterson gets it, and Adrian Peterson is to midfield. Picked up 5, and Trell Wool on the stop.
Well, that was a nice run there by Adrian Peterson, but looking at the Giants defensively over the last 4 weeks, the Cowboys didn't run the ball particularly well, but the other 3 teams did, and they've been averaging over 5 yards a carry against them. Of course, Jacksonville rushed for over 200 yards against them, but they are doing a nice job against this running game of the Vikings.
Here's Peterson again. Penalty flag flies. First guy there was Umenyiora, and it's a hold against Minnesota. Coughlin indicates on the sideline that the Giants will accept the penalty and move the ball back.
You can see right here on
Umenyiora. Holding, number 62 of the offense. That penalty is declined. Holding, number 40 of the offense. That penalty is accepted. 10 yards, second down.
You know, Perry Fuel, the defensive coordinator, and talking with him, and he said that he knew that he had O.C. Umenyiora buying into the defensive system when he began playing the run, and that was a nice job by O.C. Umenyiora, the job that he did. He got held, but he maintained the point. A lot of times against good pass rushers, offenses come in and they say, well, they can't hold up then in the running game. We're going to run the ball right at them. You see it all the time. You talk to these coaches. But O.C. Umenyiora is a much better run defender than what he probably gets credit for.
He's had a great year, 9 sacks. And now, again, I mean, this game is just stopping and starting. There is no flow to this game whatsoever, which you might expect considering this weekend.
Minnesota.
So Minnesota, prior to the snap, called a timeout that came from the sideline. And now each side has 2 remaining here in this first half, with the Giants leading by 4. You talk about Tavares Jackson. You look at Manning, who's thrown 2 picks. Tavares Jackson with this opportunity, he's a free agent to be. Brad Childress traded up to get him. He was a second-round pick out of Alabama State. Looking at the draft, you've got Cam Newton, the Heisman Trophy winner, who's a junior out of Auburn. Ryan Mallett from Arkansas. Andrew Luck, it appears, is a top pick type quarterback out of Stanford, coached by Jim Harbaugh. That's what's out there for Minnesota.
Andrew Luck will be the first quarterback taken. That guy's going to be an absolute phenom.
Second down and 15. Pass complete to Kleinsasser. Boley on the stop.
I'm not so sure Andrew Luck wasn't the best quarterback in college football after his freshman year.
Here are the offensive leaders in this game for the Vikings. Only 16 yards for Adrian Peterson, who started this game 4th all time in scrimmage yards per game.
He had the ankle injury last week, and there was talk about maybe not even making him active to play. And then he went out and had a great game, and he's better physically, at least from what the coaches say, compared to last week, but he's still not where he typically is.
2 minutes left in the half. Third down for the Vikings when we come back. Third down and 9 for the Vikings, down by 4. 2 minutes left in the half, each side with 2 timeouts. And the snap gets away from Jackson. All he does is fall on it. Back at the 30-yard line, and it's 4th down. And the Giants will spend one of their 2 remaining timeouts to stop the clock with 1:50 remaining.
Oh, it didn't look like it was that bad of a snap. See exactly what happened. It wasn't right. Well, yeah, it looked like it may have been just off to the side a little bit, but a good snap. And right there, it's just one you've got to handle.
Ziggy Will from that stadium issue is coming to a head. We'll talk more about that. Looked like he was looking up to check the roof.
Yeah, I don't blame him. I think I'd be checking the roof too. Right, checked the roof when he walked into his house too. You talk about, okay, well, what took place? Who are the winners in that deal? I think the winners were the Giants, number 1, because they didn't have to play at the Metrodome. And then I think that man right there, Ziggy Wilf. When you're talking about a guy who is trying to get a stadium through there in Minneapolis, it's hard to argue that they don't need a new stadium. Now, who pays for it? That's the question.
Kluwe hits it, and a fair catch inside the 30, hauled in by Blackman. Earlier today at the Metrodome, they were looking at the field, assessing the damage with the roof. They called in specialists, and when you think about it, they've got a Monday night game, Troy, against Chicago. That's when they're going to have the 50th anniversary celebration for this franchise, which started in 1961. You heard Jay Glazer in our pregame say they've talked to the University of Minnesota about taking that game outside. If they don't do it in the city of Minneapolis, I mean, they may have to scrap that celebration altogether. So this whole thing is coming to a head now for Ziggy Wilf, whose lease, the Vikings have the lease, expires in 2011.
Their last game of the season is against the Detroit Lions here in Detroit. It's conceivable that 3 of their last 4 games could be played here at Ford Field.
Here is Manning completing it to Bradshaw. Small gain of just 2 yards. Winfield on the stop. And a penalty flag is thrown on that 2-yard completion.
That flag came in late, too.
Eli Manning, by the way, has only attempted 3 passes since his second interception.
Personal foul. Helmet-to-helmet contact. Number 21 of the defense after the runner was down. 15 yards, first down.
That's why it's a late flag, and there is Asher Allen diving his head into the back of the neck of Ahmad Bradshaw. So that's a big penalty. Carries the ball out to the 46.
Yeah, it wasn't helmet to helmet, but it was just a stupid play by Asher Allen.
So first down for the Giants, and the pass caught. Nix. Hakeem Nicks with a catch, and they're going to mark him down at the 25-yard line, 29 yards. And Asher Allen, who was guilty of the unnecessary roughness, was on coverage.
Yeah, that was the same route that got intercepted for Eli's first interception. Only this time he's got more cushion, and then Eli threw the perfect ball.
Here's one over the middle for Boss. He's to the 20. And over a minute to play in this first half. Clock continues to run. The Giants have 1 timeout left. That completion of Boss good for 4. Some time and now throws it away in the direction of Hagan.
Go back and take a look at that route by Hakeem Nicks. Asher Allen, he starts him to the outside, and when he makes the move then to the middle, that's what created the separation. And because Eli this time he leads him up the seam, there was no chance in for Asher Allen to try to undercut that throw like he did in the first quarter for the interception.
Coming up on the Visa halftime report, Kurt, Terry, Howie, Michael, and Jimmy will update you on the Ravens and Texans. Plus, we'll take a look back at Brett Favre's best moments. 3rd and 6. Pass caught, Kevin Boss, and he's got a first down for New York.
Good read there by Eli Manning. Kevin Boss just comes right off the ball, and nobody's on him, and he sees it right away, gets the ball right into his hands.
Manning clocks it, stops the clock with 21 seconds remaining in the half, and we go down to Pam Oliver.
Well, Joe, Eli gets some of his weapons back and loses another one. Mario Manningham has a hip flexor strain. His return is questionable. Clint Sintum has a knee injury. He's being evaluated in the locker room. Back to you.
All right, Pam. So Manningham, he's got 5 touchdown receptions on the year, injured, while Steve Smith is back along with Hakeem Nicks. Derek Hagan at the top of your screen, out wide to the left. On second down, that's Hagan. And Derek Hagan will bring it right to the marker with 13 seconds remaining, and the Giants use their last timeout.
I like this Derek Hagan. I thought that 4 weeks ago that guy was sitting on his couch watching football games on TV, and he got his chance to come back and rejoin the Giants because of the injuries, as we've talked about. And last week I thought he did a really nice job of a good route runner and caught the ball well, and Eli obviously has confidence in him, and I think he's earned himself a spot. In fact, Eli said as much this week, even when all of their guys are healthy.
Last week, 7 catches, 65 yards against the Redskins, former third-round pick of the Dolphins. Second time around with the Giants here in 2010, and he sets up a 1st and goal. You've got 13 seconds left, but you have no timeouts remaining. You're compelled to throw it or take one crack at it running it.
Well, I'd throw it. You got to get it into the end zone, too.
Movement on the line, and the question is, was it on the defense that forced the offensive movement?
Neutral zone infraction. 93 of the defense. Half the distance to the goal. Still first down.
It's Kevin Williams.
Now what's interesting, Joe, is I think they throw it here on the first down here, but if they don't complete it then for the touchdown, they're going to have one more play. I mean, maybe they can get a 3rd play in if they throw the ball a 2nd time and it's incomplete. I'll throw it here, and then depending on what happens, I'm not so sure they wouldn't run the ball as good as they've been doing it.
Nix at the top. On 1st and goal. Manning rolls right, throws. Hagan can't haul it in. Covered by Frank Walker, who has an interception in this game. It's 2nd and goal with 8 seconds left.
Yeah, that took 5 seconds then on that play, so they can throw the ball again and still be given another down. If they run it here and don't make it, then the half will be over.
Ball is outside the 1. Movement by Booth, the left guard.
False start. Offense. Number 77. 5-yard penalty. Still 2nd down.
Guy who started the season on the physically unable to perform list was activated against Dallas on the 14th, and he started the last 5 games.
And you see that look there by Tom Coughlin. Actually, I think moving the ball back helps a quarterback. It gives you a little bit more room for the guys to run their routes. But where it hurts you now, being able to run the ball on 3rd down is now out of the equation.
2nd and goal. Pass is caught for the touchdown. Kevin Boss. Diving catch for his 4th touchdown reception of the year.
Yeah, and it was an okay route. E.J. Henderson is in coverage. He's going to start like he's going to run a stick route and then try to come in behind E.J. Henderson, and he reacts to it pretty well, but Eli Manning just throws it right off the side there of E.J. Henderson, knowing he's got his back to the ball, can't play it, keeps it where only Kevin Boss can make a play, and that's kind of Kevin Boss. I think teams get caught up in these wide receivers and Akeem Nicks and Steve Smith, Mario Manningham, and the next thing you know, Kevin Boss is making a play in the middle of the field.
They're reviewing this in the booth. There's a bobble, but it seems like
has not charged their timeout as we're reviewing the play.
There's a bobble right here, and then he brings it into his gut as he goes to the ground. And as we've heard, Troy, all year, and we were made aware of it yet again week 1 with Calvin Johnson and Detroit at Chicago, you have to maintain possession going to the ground as part of the catch. And the question is there anything that we've seen to overturn the call? It looked like he secured it against his body and the ball wasn't loose.
Yeah,
on the ground.
Obviously it was moving, but then it looked like he had it cradled, and I think it's a touchdown. It's a nice job, however, of it being reviewed. I mean, obviously a scoring play inside of 2 minutes, it's not a coach's challenge, but a good job of them getting on it and then reviewing this play.
Minnesota initially called a timeout. They gave it back to him. That's really irrelevant. The bottom line is they're looking at it in the booth, and here is another look. I don't think there's any visual evidence to say the ball came out. Anything to overturn the call, which on the field was touchdown. Nobody had a better look at it than that official right there.
Kevin Boss hasn't Hasn't had a lot of catches this year, but it just seems that when he makes them, they are for big plays in games, whether it's for touchdowns or a key first down. And he just is a guy who's had a knack for making the play when one's needed.
Does Mike Pereira work on Monday nights? Is he in the studio tonight? Do we know if he's even available to us?
I didn't know I worked on Monday nights, but I bet old Mike's there in studio.
Oh, he's always with us. Before we can go to Mike, here's the call from Jeff Triplett. You're off the hook, Mike.
After review, the ruling on the field is confirmed. The receiver catches the ball in his gut, knees down on the ground in the end zone. It's a touchdown.
I want to hear Mike Pereira say that's what he would have said. Mike, is that what you would have said?
I was all over that, Joe. I'm telling you, all over that. My new streak would have continued on this one.
What is your percentage this year?
I don't know. I think I've slipped under the 100%. So I don't know. I was working for perfection, but I went down the tubes. Same guy, by the way. Triplett took me down the tubes earlier.
Hey, whatever that percentage is, it's up. When you go into television, the percentages of being right are always up.
Especially when you make a decision after the call.
14-3 with 3 seconds left in the half here in Detroit. So the news of the day is that Brett Favre, his streak, 297 consecutive starts, is over. We're going to give you some of the great Brett Favre moments at halftime, the Visa halftime. Look at the shot of his throwing hand before the game as he's talking with Pam Oliver. And purple. He has that right shoulder sprain. And, you know, obviously Brett Favre, Troy's taken some hits the last couple of years for retiring, unretiring. This year there's been the issue off the field. And there have been fans that have grown weary of the will he, won't he, is he going to play, is he not? But he's always had something that fans have been able to relate to, kind of that spontaneity, the way he's played the game, which folks have just enjoyed. For the better part of 20 years, he has captivated a sports audience, which is rare these days.
Yeah, because I think the fan at home wants to know that, you know, when they watch these games, they're saying, hey, these guys are playing a game that they themselves had always dreamed of playing at this level. I mean, a lot of them obviously played when they were in grade school and growing up. And they want to see players that are enjoying living out a dream. And Brett Favre has been displaying that for 20 years.
A streak that started, as you watch the return by Booker, September 27th of 1992, ends here today on Monday, December 13th, 2010. Here's the day for Brett Favre. In sweats. Inactive here today. 14-3 Giants at the half. NFL on Fox continues after this. There you go, in front of a crowd here in Detroit of 45,910. They had 57,000 plus here yesterday as the hometown Lions beat Green Bay. And so now the second half, that was a big touchdown scored by the Giants there at the end of the first half to Kevin Boss to make this an 11-point game.
Well, I think it's big anytime a team can score right before the half. I think you look at both of these teams and kind of what has happened. They've both maintained balance. You know, it got a little skewed for the Giants because of that last drive and them throwing the ball to then score. But the difference really has been that the Giants have run the ball well and the Vikings have not.
As you look at the first half stats, inside those stats, the Giant offense 2 for 2 in the red zone. The Giant defense overcame 2 turnovers by the offense, and they held the Vikings to 3 points and 94 total yards. And so Tavares Jackson, I mentioned it during the pregame. Ironic that Brett Favre's consecutive start streak would end in Detroit, where Lou Gehrig's streak ended at Briggs Stadium. It was not called Tiger Stadium then. On May 2nd, 1939, 2,130 consecutive games for Lou Gehrig. Here's DJ Ware. Ware got to the 20, that's it. Brinkley on the stop. Let's go down to Pam Oliver.
Well, Joe, Tom Coughlin credits the defense and the run game for helping the Giants overcome that sluggish start. He was not happy about those 2 Eli picks. He said it's the one thing we could not do. Meantime, with Leslie Frazier, I asked him about his run defense, and he said we got to tackle better and stay in our gaps. He said offensively we got to maintain possession of the football to also help our defense. Back to you.
All right, Pam. Well, that's usually something that Leslie Frazier can rely on, is the run defense holding up. It has not. Bradshaw is just now getting back onto the playing field out of the dressing room at the end of the half. Starting at the 20. Quick setup and throw. That's Nix. Good for 6. Here are the offensive leaders for the Giants. And the numbers for Manning, as he is now over 100 yards and 104 with that completion.
Yeah, I was talking about how balanced the Giants were up until that last possession, which skewed it a little bit with all the passes. You know, Leslie Frazier will be the first to tell you, and this is really true about most defenses, is, you know, they have struggled this year, or when they have, it's been because offenses have been able to maintain balance. They've gotten leads, they've been able to run the ball as well as mix in the play action. That wasn't the case a year ago.
Jacobs won't go down. Carried the pile for a yard. It was a 2-yard run in total, and Kevin Williams, one of 2 guys named Williams in the middle, was there to make the stop.
Yeah, Kevin Williams and then big Pat Williams as well. Pat Williams is the oldest defensive player in the NFL, still wants to play a few more years. Kevin Williams, you know, really struggled in the early part of this year, and I think in recent weeks, probably about the time that Leslie Frazier took over, he has gotten back to the form that we're used to seeing him play at.
Same thing for Jared Allen. They sat in Leslie Frazier's office, looked at old tape, and Allen said, I got to get back to that. And the stats back up the fact that he has. Here's Bradshaw for a first down. Pat Williams on the stop, a gain of 4 and a fresh set of downs on a 3rd down conversion.
And we talk about the job that Pat Flaherty has done, the offensive line coach for the New York Giants. I think really the entire offensive staff has done a nice job when you consider at wide receiver the injuries that they've had there. Sean Ryan, who's done a nice job, and then Mike Pope, the tight end coach. Bear Pasco has to fill in, you know, there at fullback for Madison Hitchcock when he goes down. And you know, each of these guys have had to do a good job of coaching, and they've done that.
Manning airs it out, has a man, and overthrows Nix. And Nix comes up limping at the end of it. Nix, who missed 2 games with a lower left leg injury, had a pretty good release off the line, showed good speed, and then at the end, that little stretch, he came away with a limp and checks out of the lineup.
Yeah, he went right by Asher Allen. You know, Asher Allen, we saw him get the interception there, jumping the slant. And that time he's sitting a little bit too much as well. Akeem Nix, not known as the fastest guy, but as the Giants will tell you, he's as fast as he has to be.
Here's Brandon Jacobs, bounces off 1 tackler, went off E.J. Henderson, and picks up 1. Hakeem Nix looked like he was stretching out his groin, and here's a guy that's back after 2 weeks missed. He was their top target. They got that big game, Troy, coming up on Sunday at home against the Eagles. They need him.
Yeah, and you worry about, you know, whether it has anything to do with the injury that kept him out the last couple of weeks. But when a guy hasn't played, and you can't simulate then what it's like in game conditions to go after a ball. A lot of times when a guy comes back after an extended period out, you know, you'll see him pull something, trying to go for a ball like he was on that last one.
Michael Clayton's in the lineup. This one's nearly picked after it went through the hands of Bradshaw. Ben Lieber had a shot at it, but it's a hold defensively on 3rd down. Steve Smith, who's back after 4 games missed with that torn pec, has been shut out tonight.
Well, it's hard to imagine that, you know, after these guys settle back in and get used to playing again together, that, I mean, this is an awfully talented group offensively, especially the way that they're running the ball, and that's why Tom Coughlin talked to Pam Oliver about the turnovers. I mean, that's going to be the downfall of this team in postseason.
Camarillo on the return, good punt by Dodge. Camarillo not known for his speed. Tollison drives him back toward the middle. Camarillo won't go down. What a return by Greg Camarillo, who steps out of bounds. but he gave it all he had. 56-yard punt. 50-yard return. And we'll keep it right here as Camarillo has given the Vikings a little lift, and Aikman's still chuckling about that return.
It's one of the greatest returns I've ever seen. I didn't think he was out right there.
Well, he had an opportunity to take it a little further down the sideline, but he stepped out at the 36.
He's a little gassed, but you can tell by the smile that he's pretty pleased with it himself.
52-yard return officially by Camarillo. Jackson throws it away. Sidney Rice, the intended target.
Well, that was a good job there by Tavares Jackson, because he was going to turn it loose to Sidney Rice. Sidney Rice fell at the top of the route. And had Tavares Jackson have turned it loose, I think Terrell Thomas may have had himself another interception in consecutive weeks.
Yeah, he's been on some kind of roll. Forced fumble and an interception 2 straight games. At home against Jacksonville and Washington. 2nd and 10. Vikings have to do something with this opportunity thanks to Camarillo. Instead, it's an interception by Bullock. And Tavares Jackson threw it right to him. A shake of the head from number 7. And Bullock gets interception number 1. The Giants defense, who took it away 6 times last weekend against the Redskins, they get their first of this game. They have the most takeaways in the NFL this season now at 31. They also have the most giveaways, so that give and take, the good and bad. And after that 52-yard punt return by Camarillo, 2 plays later, an interception by Jackson. Steve Smith has to reach. Can't haul it in. 2nd and 10, and here's the Bullock interception.
Yeah, you see 53 there, Keith Bullock, and he's got flat responsibility, and he's going to get underneath that route, and that's the guy that Tavares Jackson has got to be able to see. I mean, that's pretty elementary coverage right there. You know, good reaction by Keith Bullock, but you don't expect to get an interception on that particular coverage.
Eli Manning has not been sacked tonight. Been over 5.5 games straight now for the Giants without a sack. Here's Bradshaw. Kevin Williams makes a play and a loss of 2. You know, while you watch Ahmad Bradshaw, realize that Brandon Jacobs, who has a 73-yard run in this game, has said he is more fresh now than he has ever felt at the end of any season. It's showing now the last few weeks. And if you consider Troy a punishing type running back with defenses now banged up, that's a big weapon for them down the stretch.
Well, it's huge. Not only is he fresh, but he's having probably the most fun that he's had in a long time as well. He's just averaging 8 carries a game for the entire season. I mean, that's really pretty remarkable how little work he's had.
Here's Nix back in the lineup. That's good news for the Giants on 3rd down, and he's wrapped up after a gain of 7. It's 3 and out. And Nix jogs back off the field, so another punt coming from Dodge, and the dangerous Greg Camarillo waits deep. Coming off that 52-yard return a moment ago.
Yeah, he's got a little more bounce in his step back there right now, too.
By far his longest. Vikings have not returned a punt for a touchdown this year. Booming punt. And Camarillo makes a mistake of fielding it inside his 5.
There was no way he was going to let that go into the end zone.
Yeah, well, he should have. Goff downfield to make the tackle. Vikings have it down 11. Leslie Frazier trying to settle down the offense after that last interception by Tavares Jackson. Leslie Frazier, defensive back at Alcorn State, played for the Bears, blew out his knee in that '85 championship team. Started a college program at Trinity in Illinois, was there for 9 years, and now finally getting a shot at the NFL level as Adrian Peterson runs into Goff. a gain of just 1. If you talk about this offense, and Troy, we came on talking about the opportunity for Tavares Jackson. This is the first time all game the Vikings have started inside their own 30. And with Jackson leading the offense, they've had 7 possessions, only 5 first downs, none in their last 3 drives, and 94 yards of offense. That's it.
Not good. I mean, we said it coming into this game. This is an auditioning period for Tavares Jackson to see how much he's improved from when he was a starter a few years ago.
Berrien is wrapped up immediately by Deion Grant, and a loss of 2.
And you look at what Tavares Jackson has been able to do here in this game. You know, he's completing a high percentage of passes, hasn't really been able to get the ball down the field. It's not completely surprising. Eli Manning really hasn't been able to do it either, and both of these defenses are very good at not giving up the big play, particularly in the passing game. But there have been some opportunities that Tavares has had that he's just failed to make, or just a poor decision, as we saw in that interception.
Pressure from Humanura off the edge. Jackson steps up and is nearly picked off by Aaron Ross, trying to force it into Camarillo. And it's 3 and out.
But Joe, we knew coming into this game that they were going to have to be able to run the football. They've got to be able to get things going. As much as the running game is important to the New York Giants and what they're about, you know, that really is what this Vikings offense is about as well. They got away from it a little bit, certainly last year with Brett Favre, and then this year, but they want to get back to that. They're not running the ball well at all.
Kluwe hits it. High hanging punt. Blackman from inside the 40. Looks at 4 Minnesota jerseys, and now a 5th comes in to make the stop. Jasper Brinkley. A return of 4 yards. Giants have it. 8:14 left in the 3rd, up by 11. Vikings cheerleaders made it here to Detroit. They were here to witness history as Brett Favre had his streak come to a close here today, and it's been interesting, Troy, to watch him over on the sideline.
Well, you can tell that shoulder, and he talked about the numbness he was feeling in his arm and his hand, is continuing to bother him throughout this game. He keeps clutching it.
On 1st down, Eli Manning throws a rocket and a completion to Akeem Nicks. Good for 15 and a 1st down. Here are the totals during the streak, which again started September 27, 1992. Since then, 6,651 days, 238 starting quarterbacks, 117 head coaches across the NFL.
You know, he's continued to look pretty uncomfortable as to, you know, what he should be doing with himself over there on the sidelines. And that's to be expected for a guy who's never really had to do it. I mean, he's come out of games in the middle of them because of injury, but to not start the game, obviously.
Here's Brandon Jacobs, and he loses 3, knocked down at the 45.
And I think that's one of the things, Joe, that's going to impact him when he does ultimately retire, because he's never had to experience what it's like to sit for extended games and watch your team go on and play. I mean, he's always been a part of it. And so, you know, when he finally does say, okay, I'm hanging it up, which is likely this year, you know, I don't know how he's going to handle that, because for 20 years, whenever his team has played, he's been out there doing it. And so this will be a really unique experience for him, and I think he's going to have a harder time dealing with it, even though he played longer than anyone.
Here's a direct snap to Bradshaw with Eli Manning wandering around. Kind of a trick play. Doesn't do anything, at least much. A gain of 5, and it brings up 3rd down and long for the Giants. Well, you had to go through that. I mean, you had to sit on the sideline when you were injured, watch your team play, and then, you know, your whole career led to this great opportunity in the broadcast booth, which I know is the highlight of your adult life.
You know what you learn in those situations, Joe, is that the game goes on. And until you experience that, you always tend to think that, hey, they're going to really miss me when I'm gone. And then you realize there's been a lot of great players that have played this game, and the game keeps moving.
It's 3rd down and 8, and down goes Eli Manning, Jared Allen. It only figures. Allen now with 8.5 sacks over his last 6 games. And that's the first sack against the Giants over the last 6 games.
Well, it looked like Deal was expecting help from Brandon Jacobs, and Jacobs kind of gave a half effort there of chipping him. And because Deal then didn't get the chip from Jacobs to put him back on point for Deal, he's able to then make the sack.
So now Brandon Jacobs is explaining himself on the sideline. Running back coach is Gerald Ingram. And here's a punt from Dodge, who's shown off the deep ball, and now a juggle on the catch. It was a fair catch, and Camarillo is allowed to bobble and try and re-catch. There was contact made. One of the Giants players came in there. Deion Grant ends up wrestling for the football, but watch this. Camarillo with a bobble. He has the opportunity, and it's Thomas who's trying to rip it away on the way to the ground. And then Deion Grant falls on the football. A flag was thrown.
Camarillo's trying to make the catch, and he's got his, his arms then around the leg. And as he's trying to then regain possession of the ball, and based on the reaction there, it looks like they're going to maintain possession.
We'll bring Mike Pereira in, former head of officiating for the NFL. That's a rule change this year, Mike, is it not, allowing the guy calling for the fair catch a full opportunity to catch the ball?
Right. Even after he bobbled the ball, this is the new rule. It's a penalty, but the only penalty is actually the awarded fair catch, no penalty yardage. So even though he bobbled, he still gets the uncontested right to make the catch if he has an opportunity, which he did. So if they get this right, they'll award the fair catch, no yardage, no 15-yard penalty.
And you could see, thank you, Mike, you could see Jeff Triplett make the indication the call is against the Giants. Vikings will have the ball. They trail by 11, and Tom Coughlin is trying to plead his case to this, in this case, the umpire. But the officials are trying to sort it out. According to Mike Pereira, no penalty yardage, but you are awarded basically the fair catch. And the Vikings will maintain possession. Here's the call.
There are 2 fouls on the play. Both occurred during the kick. First, the foul, unnecessary roughness, kicking team. That penalty is going to be declined. Interference with the opportunity to make a catch. The kicking team. The receiver muffed the ball, given a fair catch, muffed the ball, did not get an opportunity to make a catch. The ball will be placed at the spot of the foul via the new rule, first down, Minnesota.
Mike Pereira may be under 100% for the year, but I'm telling you, this guy, boy, his percentage is way up there. Right again, Pereira. Vikings have it, down 11. We have searched long and hard, and we've found offensive leaders for the Vikings. Rice has 4 catches. Those came early, 38 yards. Adrian Peterson has been totally shut down. And there's the night for Tavares Jackson.
And Adrian Peterson came into this game, really playing well here. He's been playing well all season long, but over the last few weeks, he's been averaging over 5 yards per carry. And so, he's going to get everybody's best effort, and the Giants knew that coming in, and they have done a remarkable job holding up to the task.
Jeff Triplett just gave a further explanation while we were going over the offensive leaders, and he said there were personal fouls on each side, and so they are going to make the Giants re-kick. So after all that, and Camarillo not getting the opportunity to make the clean fair catch, here comes another punt by Matt Dodge.
I don't know that anybody's having more fun than Camarillo tonight.
No. Dodge has had a nice night.
But is he having fun?
Well, that's something that we'll have to ask Matt on our way to the bus. This one is driven to the corner. That'll make old Tom Coughlin happy. That's Fiegels-esque. Marked out at the 8. They really missed Jeff Fiegels and his ability to do just that. Down the ball, not just inside the 20, but he was a punting genius at getting the ball down inside the 10. And here is Matt Dodge with one of his better efforts, knocking it out at the 8.
You know, you lose sight sometimes as to how good those guys are. Guys like Jeff Eagles, who had been doing it, you know, longer than anybody, and you know, as you said, was so good at pinning teams down in here, and talk about helping out your defense.
So Jackson starts it by handing off to Adrian Peterson, and the ground game has been shut down to this point, out just shy of the 10. On Friday, January 7th, it's one of the most anticipated bowl games of the season, as the LSU Tigers take on the Texas A&M Aggies in a rivalry that is over 110 years old. Our exclusive coverage of the 75th AT&T Cotton Bowl Classic live from Cowboy Stadium begins at 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific on January 7th in high definition here on Fox. And now one of the players is down for the Giants, Chris Canty, 6-year player out of Virginia, in his second year after being picked up as an unrestricted free agent from the Dallas Cowboys, playing for the Giants, and there he is at the end of the play, number 99.
He had done a nice job on the play. He got the penetration into the backfield, and hard to tell exactly, you know, what it is that he injured. You see Jonathan Goff again involved in a tackle.
It might have happened there. At the end, he kind of got crunched.
This interior defensive front, you know, we're talking about how well they have played the run in stopping Adrian Peterson. Those inside guys, Chris Canty does a nice job on that play there, but Barry Cofield and Rocky Bernard, they've been good also in not giving up any ground inside and just not giving any lanes for Adrian Peterson to hit inside. He's had to try to bounce everything, and with the speed of these outside pursuers for the Giants, that's hard to do.
Those guys were kind of considered disappointments last year when they were picked up. Bernard and Canty, they've stepped it up. Canty, more of an interior defensive lineman, had played defensive end with the Cowboys. Here's Adrian Peterson. He cut it back, picks up 6. Third down and short coming up for Minnesota.
They just fly around to the ball. Even when it looked like Peterson had somewhere to go with the football, Antrell Roll, he jumps in there, and you know, he continues to impress me. You look at the Giants defensively and the number of fumbles that they force. They lead the league in forcing fumbles, and that's a great sign of a team that just plays with a lot of energy and a lot of aggressiveness.
Barry Fuel, who last year was the interim head coach in Buffalo for 7 games, took the Bills to a 3-4 record his first year with the Giants, reunited with Tom Coughlin. They were together in Jacksonville. Here's Jackson in trouble, and he floats it incomplete as he gets blasted from behind. Antrell Roll was coming off the edge, and Goff, the middle linebacker, was there as well.
Antrell Roll, he comes off the edge. Brian McKinney has to try to get as much of him as he can. He forces Tavares then up in the pocket, but he stays alive, and then he's the one who's disruptive to Tavares Jackson on the throw. And you know, I mentioned Antrell Roll in the last play, him getting involved in the tackles, and you know, he's one of those guys in the league that has really impressed me, that just does everything. I mean, he's a good cover guy. He's made the transition to safety, but he's a good tackler as well.
Well, this has been just a sloppy game by Minnesota, as a false start shuts down the play on 4th down. If it's against the Giants, it would be enough for a first down, but the indication is that it's against Minnesota.
The offense, number 50.
Aaron
5-yard
Henderson.
penalty, 4th down.
Aaron Henderson guilty of the false start. And Tavares Jackson, who banged his right knee into the right knee of Adrian Peterson early in this game, comes limping off.
I think he's thinking to himself, how in the world did Brett Favre start that many games?
Well, it does bring up the point. I mean, just something like that, something in the category of a freak accident, anything, just reminds you how incredible that streak is by Brett Favre. Tonight, Eli Manning playing in his 100th consecutive start. He and his Giants lead by 11 with 3:46 left in the third. So with Brett Favre on the sideline, the Giants take over at their own 41. They're up by 11, 3:46 left in the third quarter. And there hasn't really been anything happening in this second half yet. Eli Manning trying to change that, looking for Smith, and he's led out of bounds. Why not more on Brett Favre with the way this game is unfolding and most consecutive starts in the other major sports? Ripken breaking Lou Gehrig's streak, ended up with 2,632. AC Green, Doug Jarvis from the NHL. And for quarterbacks, there is Brett Favre at 297. Peyton Manning made 205 against Tennessee most recently, and there's at the bottom of that list, but one of only 6 guys at quarterback to start 100 consecutive games is number 10 for the Giants, Eli Manning. Here's Bear Pasco. Pasco is wrestled forward with a Giants first down by Asher Allen.
Well, I'm biased, having played the position, and I think it's the greatest record in sports. I mean, I just don't think that record ever gets broken for the reasons that you said, Joe. You know, just fluke deals. First of all, you've got to play 20 years in order to get there, and then you've got to be healthy, obviously. Just the fact of someone playing 20 years is pretty rare. And Eli Manning, whether it's Brett Favre, Peyton Manning, Eli Manning, you know, they have kind of now made it the standard to where you play through a lot of things that guys just one time didn't play through.
Here's Bradshaw breaking loose. Ahmad Bradshaw takes it home. Touchdown Giants. Longest run of the season for Ahmad Bradshaw, and it's his 8th rushing touchdown of 2010.
Yeah, it's just off tackle. You're going to see it right here in the job that Booth does there at left guard, and Bear Pasco leading the way. The Vikings were crowding the line of scrimmage, had everybody up tight. There's no safety there to help with an angle there to get Ahmad Bradshaw, and then once you get past that initial surge of a defense, well, then it's off to the races. There's no one left there.
And now flags and whistles, which has become par for the course in this one. Before the extra point, Bradshaw 48 yards. And for the Giants, 164 rushing yards.
The offense. 5-yard penalty. Retry.
81 total for Ahmad Bradshaw, 83 for Brandon Jacobs. And this is a big running night for the Giants against one of the best, really the best over the last 4 years, the Minnesota Vikings.
Well, they're averaging over 10 yards a carry to just 4 yards a pass. I think I'd run the ball more.
Yeah. This to make it 21-3 from Tynes, who has not missed all year. And it is 21-3. And so the two guys who share the running back responsibilities for the Giants dancing together. Jacobs has regained his starting role, and Bradshaw that complement off the bench. So I think anytime announcers, Troy, go into a game and they talk about Brett Favre and it goes on and on and on, people go, okay, enough. But this night is different. And when you think about some of the comments that have been made about Brett Favre, and they will go on. First of all, do you think this is it? Have we seen the end of Brett Favre, not just next year, but here in 2010?
Yeah, no, I think he's done this year. I think that if Brett had his choice, that they would put him on injured reserve and let Tavares Jackson play it out. And, you know, and I don't know that, but I think that he would probably not want to have to deal with the week-to-week speculation as to whether or not he's going to play.
The Hall of Famer Sid Gilman said one time, great offenses make a defense defend every blade of grass on the field. When Brett Favre was at his best, rolling around and improvising, sometimes it drove his head coaches nuts. Holmgren's on that list, including the guy just fired, Brad Childress, but he would make things happen outside the pocket, and there was no safe place on the field defensively.
Well, he played the game differently than anyone else. I mean, really, when you think about, we talked about it a little bit earlier, the exuberance that he showed when he played after, you know, a scoring play or something of that nature. And, you know, he played it like he was that 12-year-old boy out at the playground doing something that he loved. I think that's the thing that so many people, you know, really fell in love with. It's why they enjoyed watching him, and then the fact that you could count on him each and every week.
Here is Lorenzo Booker with another kick return in an 18-point game. Booker with a good return. Is it a great return? Welcome to the Vikings. Penalty flag comes in late. Booker is into the end zone, but a flag is down. Here's the call from Triplett.
During the return, illegal block in the back. Number 54 of the return team. 10-yard penalty, first down.
That's Jasper Brinkley taking points off the board for Leslie Frazier's Vikings.
You can see it right here, the block on Aaron Ross in the back, and Aaron Ross was turning because Lorenzo Booker was running by him, and that was a lot of Lorenzo Booker right there. There was an opportunity to make some tackles early on that return, and then guys just couldn't get off blocks.
It erases a 96-yard kick return for Booker. Here's Brinkley, guilty of the block in the back. Here is Adrian Peterson out to the 45. Let's go for a game break. Here's Kurt Menefee.
Baltimore and Houston. And the Ravens are out to a quick lead. Derek Mason bobbles it, but pulls it in, and a touchdown reception of 9 yards from Joe Flacco. And the Ravens are on top of the Texans, 14-0 in the second quarter. Joe, Troy, and Pan.
All right, there are the numbers for Flacco. So the Ravens, who started the day at 8-4, trailing the Steelers at 10-3, on top of the North. Tavares Jackson. What a night for this Giants defense. Jackson loses his helmet. Tollefson gets the sack. And Jackson gets up wincing in pain again.
Yeah, you're going to see Jonathan Goff, though. He's the guy who creates a disruption in the backfield. Nobody's able to come off and pick him up, and he forces Tavares Jackson inside. And then you got a whole lot of bodies going after him.
So Goff forced it. Tollefson is there. And under pressure and in some pain as Tavares Jackson has been knocked down 6 times. Play clock was down to 2, trying to set up a screen, it looked like. Instead, Jackson throws across his body to the middle of the field. First down to Rice. Best play of the night, certainly in a long time for Tavares Jackson, as he rolled left, threw back to his right for 22 yards.
And with John Sullivan, the center, he's tied up. He's going to be way downfield. It was supposed to be a screen. Watch him right here, number 65. He gets down the field. He's waiting on the screen. In fact, he then goes after Terrell Thomas, and after Tavares Jackson throws this down the field, John Sullivan tries to run back to his side of the line of scrimmage.
Conduct. Giant bench, 15 yards. The automatic first down. They're out on the field.
The Giants saw Sullivan down the field. They were trying to get the officials' attention so they would get the call. Sullivan, after after Tavares Jackson made the throw, he saw that he was 10 yards downfield, and he tried to book it back on the other side. Everybody in the stadium saw John Sullivan.
Coughlin's way on the field. And that's what drew the flag. So it adds 15 yards, and now Toby Gerhart, wide open, is overthrown by Tavares Jackson. 39 seconds left in the quarter, and back to that penalty. Tom Coughlin was on the field, and you see the official to Coughlin's right, our left, throw the flag because Coughlin saw Sullivan downfield.
And Sullivan, you know, he's just an innocent bystander at this point, but at the time that it was thrown, John Sullivan trying to get back was one of the funniest things I've seen.
It's hard to hide when you're 6'4", 301.
And we're 65.
Here is Berrien, who is just drilled. Ball comes out, they rule him down. Good play by Corey Webster. He just slammed Berrien down to the ground.
Tell you, this defense is, you know, a defense, as I said, that came into the season playing very well. Now, obviously, this is an offense overall this year that has struggled a little bit, that being Minnesota. But because of the pass rush that they've been able to get and the takeaways that they've started to get, and then the way that they're running the ball, I mean, this team is starting to look a lot like that group that made the run to the Super Bowl.
That's Booker.
False start, number 27 in the offense. 5-yard penalty, still third down.
I mean, this has the feel of a preseason game. The Vikings have had the football. I'm going to be interested to see, as you watch Booker take off way early, I'm interested to see this defense. And now they've added Jason Pierre-Paul to the pass rush. That's different from the last time the Giants played the Eagles. You've got Michael Vick stuffing those lanes coming up the middle at number 7 of the Philadelphia Eagles. That's going to be a great matchup next Sunday.
Oh man, it's going to be a great NFC East heavyweight fight, you know, for basically the division.
Tavares Jackson is dragged to the ground. Umanura was on top of him, but he was not alone. And the player who got there first is slow to get up. That's Tuck. Tuck was on the legs of Tavares Jackson. And then Umanura up top. And Tavares Jackson again limping off the field. We may, before the end of this one, see Joe Webb, the rookie out of UAB.
Well, he's shaking his head. I mean, the way he's walking, I think we're going to see him on the next offensive play that the Vikings have, and he's going to get warmed up. But you know, defensively right there, that would have surged there by that defensive front. Justin Tuck obviously in a great deal of pain.
It looked like the feet. Watch the feet of Tavares Jackson. He gets a knee in the back, and then he lands on the left heel of Tavares Jackson, talking about Justin Tuck. And he gets up and makes his way off the field. That's the 4th Giant sack in this game. And Tuck looks to be okay.
Well, Justin Tuck, he's an absolute beast. And we saw him standing up there on the rush, and you know, he basically cleared out 2 guys, which then allowed Osi Umenyiora to then make the play. And you know, just a unbelievable talent, that guy right there. But now Joe Webb, it looks like he's going to get his opportunity to play. He came in, he was going to be a wide receiver and threw the ball so well in rookie minicamp they decided to move him back to quarterback. A chance to see what he can do.
Kluwe with good coverage downfield, and this ball is downed outside the 2 by Everson Griffin. And with 7 seconds left in the 3rd quarter, we'll look ahead to Sunday. And why not? We're excited about the Eagles at the Giants. And it's an early game on Sunday, the new Meadowlands Stadium. And there's a look at the NFC East to win here tonight. The Giants are 9-4. Tied with Philadelphia. Philadelphia has already beaten the Giants this year. But it's an opportunity next week for those 2 to go head-to-head.
How about the NFC playoff picture altogether? I mean, when you look at what's happening in the NFC West, a team could win that division with a losing record. I guess right now, if the playoffs were beginning, the Rams would be hosting New Orleans, and New Orleans has the 2nd best record in the NFC.
On first down out of the end zone, Bear Pasco, the fullback, leaps a tackler and has a first down. So why not replay that to break as we go to the 4th quarter? 21-3 Giants. Back after this from your local Fox station. Giants trying to beat a 5-7 club in a game they need in a neutral site. We're in Detroit. After one of the top 5 storms to hit the Twin Cities rolled through there late Friday, all day Saturday, 17+ inches of snow. Roof of the dome collapsing, and here we are in Detroit after the Lions yesterday, by the way, snapped a 5-game losing streak. They lost 10 straight to Green Bay, 19 straight within the NFC North. They beat the Packers 7-3, which is a moral victory for the home team, Detroit, but is a big loss for the Green Bay Packers as they continue to trail the Bears in the NFC North.
That was a huge loss for the Packers, and you know, Aaron Rodgers going down, and then Matt Flynn and not being able to punch it across the goal line, and you know, pretty disheartening whether it's the Packers or even the New York Jets. You're talking about giving up 1 touchdown and then you come away with a loss. That's That's hard for any defensive player to swallow.
Word on the injury to Justin Tuck was a rib injury, and they expect him to return. Here's a completion to Steve Smith, and he is just ripped down to the ground. Chad Greenway, who's a free agent to be, out there on the tackle. The Giants are just happy to see Steve Smith pop up. It's a club to the head and then dragged down backwards. Line judge is injured, so we're playing with one fewer official than we started with on first down. It's Brandon Jacobs, lowers his head, picks up 2. Mike Pereira, we're playing with one man down as the line judge was knocked out of this game, so I guess a rotation has to happen for your group, or your old group, as we work this game in Detroit.
Yeah, really what happens now is that you only have 2 deep officials instead of 3. Gives some real advantages, I think, to the defense, because they could take the tight end and probably grab him, ride him a little bit further downfield, because he's likely going to be the guy that's not watched as much. So bit of an advantage, I think, for the defense when you go to 6 men.
Toss to Bradshaw, and he is brought to the ground by Henderson. A loss of 3.
We talk about this defense for Minnesota and the front 4 oftentimes, and the linebacking core for the Vikings, I think, is one of the more underrated groups around the league. E.J. Henderson, coming off of his big injury last year, was, he's had a good year, but this guy right here, Chad Greenway, he's been outstanding. I mean, you cannot watch the Vikings play defense and not come away impressed with the way that he plays. We saw the play that he made on Steve Smith a moment ago, but he just flies around all week.
Manning right through the hands of Kevin Boss, and it's 4th down. And on the other side, Ben Lieber's at the end of a 5-year deal. Spent his first 4 years in San Diego. He's a good player, very reliable. And it'll be 4th down for the Giants with Camarillo waiting with 13 minutes left in the 4th quarter.
Well, whether it's in Minnesota or somewhere else, I can promise you Chad Greenway is going to have a nice payday this offseason.
Dodge hits another good one. Camarillo from the 19. Gets one block out to his left and takes it up just shy of the 30. An 11-yard return. Vikings have it. Will it be Jackson or Webb? It'll be the rookie, Joe Webb, when we come back. So now Joe Webb, who went to the combine as a wide receiver. Troy told you that they turned him back into a quarterback. First player in NCAA history to throw for over 2,000 yards and rush for over 1,000 yards in consecutive seasons. He played at Alabama Birmingham. He's got a big arm, returned a kick last week and strained a hamstring. Here's one batted down. 2nd and 10. We showed you Jeff Bergman leaving. He's the line judge. And just to finish off the story, you'll see him come to the 12, cut in, and then he looks behind him like somebody hit him with something. It looked like his calf just popped on him.
Yeah, I've pulled both of my calves when I was playing, and that's exactly what you think when it happens. You think somebody's hitching the back of the leg with a bat or something, and that's why he was looking behind him.
2nd down and 10. Delayed handoff to Gerhardt. Rookie to rookie, and a penalty flag comes in on a 4-yard carry by Toby Gerhardt.
Holding, 38 offense, 10-yard penalty, 2nd down.
That's Tahi. It's against the Vikings, and we go for a game break. Here's Kurt Menefee.
And once again, the Ravens are doing it to the Texans. Joe Flacco hooking up with Derek Mason again. This time, 26-yard score, his 2nd of the day. It's 21-0 Baltimore in control just before halftime. Don't forget Sunday, Saints at the Ravens here on Fox.
Yeah, that's another big game this week, Kurt. Glad you reminded us. The Saints at the Ravens, who are on their way to 9-4, a game behind the Steelers. who won at home big in a driving rainstorm over Cincinnati on Sunday. Here's Gerhardt on second down. He picked up 5. It'll be third down and 15.
And Gerhardt, he's gotten more carries here over the last couple of weeks, and then what do you have, a hamstring injury last week, and that, in fact, Joe Webb's got a hamstring injury as well. They put in a package. They've had a package in for him each week during the season, and finally last week they were going to unveil it on the first play of the game. He pulled up with a hamstring injury, and so he's not going to be able to run too well probably here tonight.
Here's a screen for Gerhardt, and there's Tuck making the play. Ribs are fine as Justin Tuck hauls down Gerhardt after a gain of only 1, and this Giants defense is still working. 21-3 game with under 11.5 to go.
I think that's the biggest difference that I've seen from this year going back to last year's defensive unit is just this, the effort and the way that they're flying around. I mean, last year it just didn't seem like even close to the same defense that they had been, prior to that, and now they're back to looking the way that they did a couple of years ago when they were just dominating the league.
Fair catch by Blackman. Will hauls it in after a 47-yard punt. Giants have it. They'll try to eat some of the clock here with under 11 to go in Detroit. How about the NFC playoff picture there? The division leaders at the top. This is why we said earlier there could be a 10-win team that doesn't make the playoffs. Somebody's going to come out of the West. Right now it's St. Louis on top. You've got New Orleans, they're rolling. The Giants 8-4, about to be 9-4 it appears. Then you've got Tampa Bay with 8 wins, Green Bay with 8 wins. Who knows where Aaron Rodgers is? He had to leave yesterday's game right here in Detroit with a concussion. And Matt Flynn could not lead the Packers to victory, losing 7-3. It was a big loss. Bradshaw dragged down by Henderson, a gain of 2.
Well, the good news for the Giants, Joe, is they beat Chicago. Philadelphia did not. And so now, if you're looking at that, if Atlanta wins that division, and regardless then of what happens with New Orleans, they at best will be the 5th seed. Then the Giants, they control it. They would be the number 2 seed and have the first-round bye. So that win against Chicago earlier in the year could prove to be big, and it could prove to be costly for the Eagles.
That was a game they had 10 sacks and knocked Cutler out of the ball game. Here's Bradshaw, and that's how smart Ahmad Bradshaw is, wanting to run the clock. He went right around Asher Allen, stayed in bounds, a 23-yard run.
Now this guy is just pretty amazing, and he's 20-some years old and playing with 50-year-old feet, because of the injuries that he's had and surgeries and everything else. And he talked about it a few weeks ago, and he said it takes him all week long to recover from a game to get his body back to where he feels good enough to get back out on the field and play. And so on the one hand, we talk about Brandon Jacobs and how great he feels, and even though Ahmad Bradshaw hasn't started the last few weeks, he's still, last week 25 carries, this week not as many, but he takes a pounding.
Kevin Williams on the back of Brandon Jacobs, who has a 73-yard run in this game. Bradshaw has one for 48, that last one for 23. 3-yard carry there by Jacobs. We're under 10 to play here in Detroit.
And the guy who really hasn't been able to get on the field is DJ Ware. We saw him in the return game, and last week he finally got a couple of carries, but at the end of that Seattle game 5-6 weeks ago, he had 13 carries in that game and really did a nice job and kind of earned the right to get more carries. But when do you give them to him when you got those 2 guys ahead of you? But he's been a good player when he's had his chances. Somebody that they can rely on, and he may get some carries before this one's over.
Yeah, I was going to say the answer to that question to me is soon. Here is Eli Manning ending up on his back, trying to get one to Kevin Boss. Incomplete, and it's third down.
Yeah, E.J. Henderson, he comes on the blitz, and he's able to get a hit on Eli, right at the end, and forced Eli to get rid of the football a little sooner than what he had hoped.
So the 100th consecutive start for Eli Manning. There are the numbers. He's been hit 7 times, knocked down 3 times, and sacked once. First sack that this offensive line has given up in 6 games. 3rd down and 7, and Eli Manning completes it for a gain of 1 to Bradshaw. Here's a game break. Here's Kurt Menefee.
Talk about your hurry-up offense. Houston, 7 plays in 55 seconds and a touchdown. Matt Shaw to Andre Johnson, 46 yards on the score, and at halftime, it's a 21-7 Baltimore Ravens lead. Joe, Troy, and Pam.
You know, I keep forgetting there's another game being played tonight.
Do you really now?
Until we have those game breaks.
Yep, they're playing one other game.
Yeah.
Dodge pops it up. Camarillo with a fair catch at the 13. We'll take a break. Come back, I promise. Eli on the sideline watching his defense, and that D's been good all night. They're looking at Ahmad Bradshaw on the sideline, and now they're wrapping up that left wrist. He'd been bothered during the week by a right wrist injury. He said both wrists have been bothering him this year. And he had the left one pinned underneath him on that short 1-yard completion from Eli Manning. So that's not what the Giants need going into that big game against the Eagles. Here's Gerhardt, a gain of 3, and we go back to Bradshaw on that 3rd down catch. Just 1 yard where they're dominating this game, and Giants have to hope that's no long-term issue for Ahmad Bradshaw.
Well, you can see that it was bothering him. He had it wrapped up pretty good already coming into the game.
Marion just dropped it. Wide open and dropped it. As Tavares Jackson is back in the game for Minnesota.
Going to follow up on Ahmad Bradshaw at 5'9" and 190 pounds. It's hard to imagine any part of his body not bothering him at this stage of the season.
You talked about the 25 carries last week. Tom Coughlin said that was probably too much for him. By far his career high in carries, and he's over 1,000 yards. And that's before they put the wrap on that left wrist. It's 3rd down and 7. There are 4 flags on the field.
False start, 62 of the offense. 5-yard penalty, still 3rd down.
They get Ryan Cook again. Watch these flags fly. There are 1, 2, 3, 4.
The meteor shower was a little later tonight.
It's 3rd down and 12. Are you okay over there? I'm starting to worry about you.
Say 62.
And here's another snap. Goes over the head of Jackson, and let's see the call. Did he get it out? They're saying 4th down outside the end zone, no safety. Antrell Roll was there to cover up, and this has been just an awful offensive performance by the Vikings.
Well, this one wasn't even close. I mean, the first one was on Tavares Jackson, and then this one was just lollipopped right over his head. That's the kind of night, I guess you could say that's the kind of season it's been for the Minnesota Vikings.
I'm not so sure he's out of the end zone.
No, I'm not either.
Mike Pereira tells us that's a reviewable play. But they get the snap away before Coughlin can challenge it. Blackman from inside the 45. Nice move, but doesn't go any farther. 56-yard punt. Here's the snap. It's up and sideways. No safety. Giants have it up by 18. Six and a half to go. Giants get it. They've lost Ahmad Bradshaw with that wrist injury. He's on the bench. Brandon Jacobs comes back in. There was no challenge on what could have and probably should have been a safety. We just spoke with Mike Pereira. We'll get his official explanation after this carry by Jacobs. So they're keeping their starter in there. Brandon Jacobs up by 18. Here's Mike Pereira, and Mike, it looked to us like that could have been reviewable or should have been reviewed and would have been a safety. What'd you see?
Yeah, I think it would have been a safety because once the ball goes into the end zone, now he's got to advance. The whole ball has got to get out into the field to play. He gets control here and is touched here. So now, without that whole ball being into the field to play, that would have been the safety. Key is he would have had to have gotten the whole ball out into the field to play, and it didn't happen.
So no challenge by Tom Coughlin. Instead, he runs his offense back out there. This is the culmination of a long weekend for the Giants. First down for Jacobs. Lieber on the stop, a gain of 7. Offensive line has done another terrific job. I thought it was interesting, Troy, you asked a very pertinent question to Tom Coughlin when you said about the return of Sean O'Hara, the Pro Bowl center. Does he automatically get his job back? And Tom Coughlin said Seibert's the guy that's held this whole thing together.
Yeah, you know, this is the 6th consecutive game that Sean O'Hara has missed, but he missed some in the middle of the year too. He's only played in 4 games all year, and it sounded to me like, you know, there's this thought that you immediately put O'Hara back in because he's got so much experience, he's been doing it for so long. But it sounded like Seibert's going to maintain the job.
Here's another big carry by Brandon Jacobs, a gain of 9. Booth made a nice block there. We talked about this in the Seattle game. Somebody has to play. You're up by 18 points. The Vikings are doing nothing offensively. Why is DJ Ware not carrying the ball here? You've already lost Ahmad Bradshaw. Now you've got your big back, Brandon Jacobs, carrying the ball, just trying to kill the clock.
Yeah, I am surprised. This is very similar to the situation in Seattle. Only there's there's less time on the clock right now, but I know they trust DJ Ware, and he's done a nice job when given his chances. I'm surprised Jacobs is carrying the ball also.
He carries forward for another first down, and he's going to keep getting a steady diet of the football here as E.J. Henderson made that last stop, and DJ Ware, who's carried it only 17 times this season, has to be wondering, when do I get my chance?
He's got his helmet on. He's ready to go. But over 200 yards rushing here tonight. And granted, 2 or 3 really big runs, but that's part of it against a run defense that has been really stubborn, giving up rushing yards, not just this year, but for a lot of years. This is a great performance by this offensive front.
Here's Nix. They're still throwing it to Nix, who left earlier, limped off the field. 12 yards and a first down.
I think overall, David Deal coming back after 4-week absence. He's done a pretty good job on Jared Allen, too. We talked about the hot streak that Jared Allen was on. And, at times he got bull rushed a little bit, but that's pretty tough duty jumping in after that kind of layoff and then going up against Jared Allen without much help. I know they're glad to have him back.
DJ Ware comes into the lineup. Jacobs is out. 3 minutes plus to play. Clock continues to run. Here's Ware, who's trying to make the most out of it. Won't go down easily, and eventually it's Greenway making the stop. Troy, we talked about it earlier. Loss of 6 on that run by Ware. Monday night, the Vikings have that 50th anniversary celebration at home against Chicago. They're trying to scramble to get the dome ready. The University of Minnesota's outdoor stadium has already been winterized. They've said it's going to take 4 days to get that stadium ready if they would choose to go there. That's an outdoor stadium. Otherwise, they're going to have to take another home game on the road, and I would imagine cancel the 50th anniversary celebration. Fran Tarkington is supposed to be a participant in that as DJ Ware goes forward for 4.
Yeah, Fran Tarkington got a call from his old ball coach, Bud Grant. And Coach Grant had heard that Tarkington was not going to be able to make it in, and he called him and told him how much it would mean for him to be there. And Fran Tarkington, as he said, you don't turn down Bud Grant. But you're right. I mean, and it sounds like Leslie Frazier would like to play that game outdoors there in Minnesota.
2 minutes left here in Detroit. Giants up 18. We're going to go ahead and project the Giants as winners of this game, and now they're 9-4, even though there are 2 minutes left. And they take on the team they're tied with on top of the NFC East next week at home against Philadelphia. Here's a little screen to DJ Ware, showing what he can do, and he stepped out before he could pick up the first down. So it is a gain of 12 and 4th down. Here's that matchup. Have we talked enough about this matchup on Sunday? A short week of preparation for the Giants as their coaching staff has already worked on that game plan. They did that starting today. And it's one of 4 early games on Fox, along with the Saints at the Ravens.
Well, that game's going to be a lot of fun. As far as the shortened work week for the coaches, there's not going to be any surprises in that game. These two teams know each other as well as anyone, and for the players, it's a little bit of a challenge. You get one less day to recover, but I am really excited about that one. It's two great teams that are battling it out, just as you'd come to expect for the NFC East division title.
Before a 4th and 1, Giants call a timeout as the play clock was running out. Let's go for a game break. Here's Kurt Menefee.
Well, we just wanted to make sure you remembered there was another game going on tonight. Baltimore at Houston, and it's, well, really not that competitive. David Reed takes the second half kickoff for the Ravens and returns it 103 yards for the touchdown. Baltimore in firm control, up on Houston 28-7 as they start half number 2. You know, guys, I got a text from Troy asking for one more game break. That's why I did that.
Nay, and we appreciate it.
Nobody loves game breaks like me, Kurt.
Gruden must have loved that return for the touchdown. It's 4th down and 1 here. Next on Fox, your late local news. Usually you say except on the West Coast, but we're not on in the West Coast. Here's Ware. No surprise. And no surprise that Kevin Williams makes a play. So the Vikings will get it as the Giants turn it over on downs. Again tonight marks the end of one of the great streaks by one of the great players in the history of this game. Brett Favre unable to go, and you're right. I mean, every time we've shown Favre on the sideline with that right arm, the sprained shoulder, his throwing shoulder, he's trying to support it there because he's definitely in some pain. We saw that before the game, and we've seen it really since this game began.
Yeah, and I think he's worried about it, Joe. In visiting with him prior to the game, I think he's concerned about some of the numbness and the tingling in the arm and hand that he's been experiencing.
Jackson throws, and he hangs Greg Lewis out to dry. Lewis is knocked away from the football. Webster out there to make the play in 2nd and 10. After all these injuries, even this season with a cracked bone in his foot and his ankle, everything he's played through, he had never sprained his throwing shoulder. And you're just so conditioned to expecting him to come out and play, no matter what's said about the injury. And this one finally got him on a hit by Arthur Moats, the 3rd play of the game. First throw of the game last week at home against Buffalo. Here's Bernard Berrien. Webster makes that play, and it's 3rd down.
Well, you just kind of wonder now where the Vikings are going to go, and this this is something that they've had to be contemplating throughout this season. I think everybody anticipated that this would be his last year, and Tavares Jackson, we talked about it coming in. I don't think anything was really answered positively in that regard at the end of this one, and will it at the end of this season? He's a free agent after this year, and will the Vikings choose to sign him? But there's no question that whether they sign him or not, they're going to be looking for a quarterback to come in and, if nothing else, provide some competition.
It's 4th down and 3 here, so not only do they have to figure out where they're going to go and play on Monday if they can't get their home stadium ready in time, but as an organization, where they're going to go personnel-wise at the quarterback position. Sidney Rice is a free agent, their top receiver, and top receiver by a mile. Here's Lewis, who makes the catch for a 1st down. Now, Richie Zients is our producer. He's celebrating his birthday with us tonight in Detroit. waiting for a pizza to arrive to our production truck. And he produced the last game that Brett Favre didn't start for the Green Bay Packers in 1992. He came in for an injured Don Majkowski, and Richie Zients was producing that game. And now here he is producing the first game that Favre hasn't started since that 92 season. Richie Zients has bookended this great streak of Brett Favre.
It's been a full career for Richie Zients.
You think that's it for Zients? We're assuming that's it for Favre. Zients will be there on Sunday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday in the New York area, and at the new Meadowlands Stadium on Sunday for the Giants and the Eagles.
I just got word that Richie Zients is still waiting for that pizza.
Really, that's a shock. So happy birthday to Z, our director Rich Russo. Been a weird weekend for everyone as Tavares Jackson on second down is thrown to the ground, and they're going to throw a flag on Umanura with 35 seconds left.
Personal foul, roughing the passer, helmet-to-helmet contact, number 72 of the defense. 15-yard penalty, automatic first down.
Clear cut.
Yeah, that's the way the rule is. Even though he comes in with his helmet up, doesn't lead with the crown of his helmet, wraps him up, but the contact with the helmet,
you'd still be
draws
playing.
The flag.
You'd still be playing if they had all these rules in to protect the quarterback.
I would have been in my 24th year.
We want to thank our technical crew for persevering through this weekend and with all the uncertainty in Minneapolis, and then getting this game pulled off here in Detroit. So they do a great job every week, and we thank them, all of them, top to bottom. That one for Barry, an incomplete, 2nd and 10, 30 seconds left. The irony of it is Detroit gets a Monday night game and the Lions aren't playing.
Yeah, the first Monday night game played here in Detroit, or in Ford Field.
In Ford Field, which is one of the real nice facilities across the NFL. We're typically here on Thanksgiving. Lions have come so close so many times this season with Jim Schwartz, their head coach. I don't think there's any doubt they're on the right path. And he's done a nice job in trying to change the culture here with the Lions. I mean, you can look to 4 or 5 games where it could have gone either way. And they have been impressive some weekends. They didn't get much this last week, but it was enough. A 7-3 win here at home over the Green Bay Packers. It's 3rd and 10 here for Minnesota.
Yeah, the Vikings are determined to drag this game out as long as they can.
It appears so. Tavares Jackson, who's been limping from the beginning, basically, in shotgun on 3rd and 10. And now Jackson gets away from Jason Pierre-Paul and throws it out of bounds. So Jason Pierre-Paul, who had back-to-back two-sack games, almost had his first of the night here. Somehow Tavares Jackson got away.
Well, there's no quitting these guys. You know, see Umanura, and they're going to throw it. They're going to keep coming after him.
You alluded to it earlier that Jason Pierre-Paul, the rookie, as Joe Webb will come in, got tired of getting ribbed by the guys in the defensive line meeting room saying, 15th overall pick, you got no sacks yet of the quarterback, get going.
Yeah, that, especially when you get into the room of veteran players as a rookie, regardless of the position, you can bet as a first-round pick, if you're not producing on the field, you're going to hear about it. And you know, he's a raw guy, you know, from what I gather, just a really likable young man who was contributing greatly on special teams, was doing a lot there. But you don't get drafted in the first round as a defensive lineman to play special teams. You get drafted there to go after the quarterback, and it looks like they found him another one. You know, Ernie Accorsi, you remember, Joe, when he was a general manager and teams were trying to make a trade for Matthias Kiwanuka, and he even got criticized for drafting Matthias Kiwanuka because of the other players that he had with Strahan and then Osi Umenyiora. He says you never have enough pass rushers, and Jerry Reese feels the same way.
On 4th down, Joe Webb, who can really fly, carries it forward for a first down with 9 seconds left and gets out of bounds. 16 yards and a first down.
You know, speaking about Joe Webb and talking with some of the coaches for the Vikings, they say he's the best athlete on this Vikings team, which I find remarkable when, you know, Percy Harvin also plays for them, and we know what kind of athlete he is. But he really is something special, and not really sure exactly where he's going to be playing yet, if it's going to be a quarterback or a wide receiver or what he'll do, but he is a heck of an athlete.
So 9 seconds left. Seeing what Webb can do. Sliding to his left, and then he shows off the arm and completes it to Schenko. How about that throw?
Pretty impressive. Now I know why they moved him back to quarterback.
3 seconds remaining. That was a long throw that, like a laser, got out to Schenko near the sideline. 7 yards.
If they get this one off real quick, they can get another play in after it's over.
Why are you so bitter?
I'm not.
Come on now. This is a thrilling finish here in Detroit. It is for Joe Webb, and this will be the first loss. No Vikings head coach had ever started 3-0, and that will continue as Leslie Frazier will go to 2-1. Webb floats it up. That's the end of the game, barring a defensive foul, and this thing comes down incomplete. And we are finished in Detroit. So you know the story, the roof collapsing in Minneapolis, forcing this game to be moved to Detroit. Brett Favre did not make the start. The streak is over. We'll come back and wrap up our night after this.